far as I can see, which is really only roughly row 3 there. So beyond that, who knows? You know how it goes. But without any further ado, I say to you all, each and every one, Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
Oh, what are you doing? It's far too soon to go about shouting Happy New Year. No, we need to pause, take a breath, and rest. Simply rest in this moment. And we need to listen. Because it's at Christmas we can hear clearly the sweet strains of something that pulls at our ear.
So let us be clear right from the start. Going beyond just a few mentions here and there, let us state our quite intentional intentions. Our only solo singular goal for us tonight, the point where we'll point, the hint doing for all of this is wonder.
Wonder, the quality of exciting, amazed admiration.
Wonder, rapt attention at something awesomely mysterious or new to one's experience.
Wonder, a cause of astonishment or awe.
We were made for wonder, to be under the spell of it, even if it sometimes means blundering into it.
The whole world is wide with wonder if we're wide-eyed to see it.
And all of us seem to be quite good at being in wonder, right from the very start, at the beginning of life, that short, early part. But as we continue on, day after day, one into the next, wonder can sometimes get lost on the way.
Diminishing slowly, the process unnoticed, until it's only the treasure of children and poets. But at Christmas time, we each hear the call. It's like receiving an invitation to be children again, like getting a ticket to a time travel vacation.
Pretty sure my ticket got lost in the mail.
Christmas is like a wide open door, through which we can again step into a world we once knew before. We hear the beck and call of it, the gentle pull of it.
At Christmas, our memories surface, reminding us of that fine childhood circus. So Christmas calls us to enter in and remember what it's like to begin, what it's like to be in wonder.
Wonder at the winter's white after a midnight snowfall. In the morning's light, it made the sight out my window something magical. The landscape was reborn like the white wool of a sheep unshorn. The rolling drifts of snow were like a sea of diamonds. The houses across the street stood out like islands. I was in wonder.
I grew up in California.
For many of us, memories like that, they only exist in our dreams. But a child's imagination is as real as it seems.
I remember the glimmer of thousands of lights brightening up the night, reflecting on the pavement and the puddles that were strung up on houses, up and down trees. They glimmered in the dark. I'd squeeze my eyes until they were almost shut. The lights would explode like stars. I was in wonder.
I remember wheeling my way right up underneath our tree, right next to the stand that held the trunk, and I'd look up through the pine-scented branches, and I'd twist my head just slightly this way and then back, and the lights would twinkle through pine needles below. I was in wonder.
I do remember. I was always in wonder at the carols that we'd sing in church, sitting on wooden pews that would creak when we'd stand with our hymnals held open before us. And together we'd begin to sing the first few lines of the chorus. And all the talk of angels and newborns and choirs and kings would fill my mind with shiny bright things that were like fuel to the fire of my Christmas Eve dreams. I was in wonder.
But it's not just at Christmas that children wonder. Wonder's around every corner, under every rock, on the ground, in the sky, overhead, just waiting to be seen, to be found.
Do you remember the feeling of looking not at the eyes of adults, but at mostly just a sea of knees?
Do you remember when grown-up conversations were just a buzzing above our heads?
Do you remember when life was free of pressures and demands? If you can remember, really remember, why your world can begin to expand and swell.
The time when coloring outside the lines was fine. More than fine, it was irrefutably beautiful.
And when a crayon or a finger
as to how they worked. It didn't matter. We were just admiring a sky that was night turned into colorful day.
And all those long summer evenings we whiled away.
Remember when the veins on a leaf could hold us in disbelief for minutes on end? We watched little ants in single file lines like trains on their tracks. There were miniature railways and gray sidewalk cracks.
When hedges became our strong fortress walls, when enemy armies oft came to call.
Fingernails weren't filled with dirt anymore, but our hands were filled with other things. Things we had to handle. And the world that was once wonderful was slowly dismantled.
The whitewashed wonder of winter wonderland is a little less wonderful with a shovel in your hand.
And some of us, maybe mistakenly, equated getting an education with ceasing to pursue the formation of wonder.
And unfortunately, it's true that some of us had wonder shook out of us. There was a moment. Or a sorrow, or a fear that stopped us cold, putting on permanent hold our wonder pursuit.
Reminding us of a world that was lazy, with diamond seas, sparkling trees, and cardboard wings.
Look, we're done with playing around. Play had its day, but it's been over for a while now. We're done with wonder. It got in the way. And we brought to an end those silly games of pretend.
Or have we? Because I'd like to... We still play pretend. When we boil down the world to the way we want it to be. I don't think we've stopped pretending, no. I think we've actually gotten better at it. Because we've begun to believe in the world we pretend. It's a world without wonder.
Or maybe, just maybe, we're afraid. Afraid if we begin to look to the skies with wide open eyes, if we begin to wonder, we'll encounter a world we cannot handle. Our hands will be too full.
So we've closed the door on all the things that might start to unravel if we start to travel down the road to wonder.
Christmas is like the wedge in the door. It's the toy on the floor that we ignore. We skip over it until we trip over it.
All right then, tonight let's have an agreement to stop pretending and possibly reinvent the way that we see the world.
For when we outgrew wonder, the world did not shrink quite as much as we think. It's quite a bit bigger than we might consider.
There are discoveries yet to be made. Some of them may be laid carefully inside our own hearts, even the fragile or hardened parts.
So let's agree to be in awe, in wonder, because there is no better time to retrace this faint line. Because Christmas is about wonder.
It's about the wonder of love that came down from above to make you a part of true wonder. Causing us to work harder, to reach further, and to succeed where stagnancy and or failure would be the alternative. Wow! Albert Einstein. Have you heard of him? He stated it more simply. He who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. So when I say that we were made for wonder, I mean it. And by wonder, I don't mean, I wonder why this, or I wonder why that. What I mean is amazement. We were made for the slack-jawed, wide-eyed, mind-blowing, goosebump-causing kind of wonder, awe and delight. That's what I mean by wonder. And as the creation of a creator, we were made for wonder because we have one to be in wonder of: God. As we've already begun to explore, some of us have ceased to wonder. Or at least that muscle is somewhat atrophied. Maybe we've chosen to shrink the world down to what we can manage. Or perhaps responsibility has crowded out our capacity for bigger ideas. Or maybe we've had wonder hounded out of us. Or any other number of reasons. The reasons, they're not my point here. The point is that at some point, many of us cease to be in wonder. And do you remember what Albert Einstein had to say about that? But when God is our source material, our inspiration for wonder, our awe, really ought to be inexhaustible. Whatever we may learn from biology, sociology, theology, or any other ology only adds to what we know about God, the origin of all of those ologies. And what we learn should give us even more reason for wonder. Because in the beginning, God created. Psalm 33 tells us that He spoke and it came to be. He commanded and it stood firm. And David in Psalm 19 tells us, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. So what we see here is that all of nature is meant to be one of our textbooks in this lifelong course of discovering the wonder of God. And that's the way the psalmist saw nature. From what they saw in the natural world all around them, they were able to make deductions about the nature of God. Psalm 93 tells us He is mightier than the breakers of the sea. And 83 tells us His anger is like a tempest. But if the natural world is one of our textbooks for the nature and the wonder of God, the psalmist never even got past the first chapter. All they had to work with at that time was their little corner of the known earth. Today, we know so much more, and enough to know that we still know very little. But I want to take you on a journey beyond our little corner of the earth and into the universe. An exploration for the furthest reaches of the heavens, and an exploration, a wonder pursuit, if you will, toward the creator of those heavens. Because together, as we take in the wonder of his creation, we might find ourselves awestruck by the creator. So, let's start here, right here. Let's consider for a moment gravity. Simple, no? Isaac Newton had an apple fall on his head and boom, we have gravity. Come on, this was Sir Isaac Newton. They didn't go around knighting people for having apples fall on their heads. But what kind of discovery was gravity, really? Was he just the first to notice that when things are not held up, they fall down? I hope it didn't take until 1666 for humankind to wrap our minds around that one. After all, by this time, we weren't just discovering fire and chipping away at our first granite wheels. By this time, we'd already discovered the Earth's magnetic field and had measured the speed of light. We'd already invented the microscope and the telescope. And there it is. The telescope was more responsible for Newton's discovery of gravity than the apple. You see, we think of gravity as being something quite terrestrial. It's how our feet stay on the ground, and it's why we hate our bathroom scales. But gravity is bigger than Earth. Much bigger. You see, with the advent of the telescope, scientists had begun to be able to peer more deeply into the mysterious world beyond our own atmosphere. And they saw things there they just couldn't explain. Why did the moon orbit the Earth? Why did newly discovered stars and planets seem to move or disappear and then reappear in new places? Gravity wasn't an accidental discovery. It was a sophisticated search for the mechanisms of a universe of which we were just beginning to get a glimpse. The telescope was like a catapult that had rocketed our curiosity into the expanse of space, and gravity was our means of trying to answer the questions posed by this vast unknown. And when we speak of the vastness of the universe, how vast are we talking, really? Well, our moment together can't do it justice. Because how can we hope to grasp in this moment what the whole body of science has been unable to grasp, will forever be unable to grasp in the whole of its existence and mission? And yet, let us get a glimpse. A mere particle within an atom, within a molecule, within a slice of the whole bigness of the universe. We'll start with something small, like the sun. Earth, and its core is roughly 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. On average, the sun is 93 million miles away from the Earth. And, yep, that's us. And the sun forms the center of our solar system, the whole system being latched onto the gravity of the sun and orbiting around it. Within the system, the closest planet to us, Mars, is between 34 and 249 million miles away, depending on its position in orbit. NASA tells us that with all the technology we have at our disposal right now, it would take human beings 2.5 years to get there. And let me point out, we're not even close to the warp speed we see in science fiction. That's still in the realm of dreams and theories. In fact, it's very likely that our own solar system marks the furthest reaches of the universe we will ever be able to physically explore. Ever. And even that is a massive question mark in the minds of scientists, since those kinds of excursions would require staggering leaps in technology beyond what we can hope for, much less build today. The man-made Voyager 1 is only just now nearing the point where it will leave our solar system, and it was launched from Earth on September 5th, 1977. That's right. It would take us 35 years just to reach the edge of our own solar system. We're like the toddler who stands within the picket fence surrounding his front yard, unable to venture any further. But we keep launching our kickballs and frisbees over the fence just to see what they do on the other side. We keep launching satellites and telescopes to try and peer further than we'll likely ever be able to go. And what have our kickballs and frisbees shown us? Well, let's zoom out a bit more and take a look at our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. As a child, the mention of our galaxy brought to mind images of glowing candy bars floating out in the vast darkness. Ridiculous. Or maybe not. There may be candy bars out there for all we know, because we've not even begun to see a fraction of this, our own galaxy. Our sun is but one of 200 stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Oh, pardon me, I said 200. I meant 200 billion. Our sun is but one of 200 billion such stars in our galaxy. That would be like if I poured out 6,667 one-pound bags of sugar in this room and then asked you to count each granule one by one. The room would be 6 inches deep in sugar. And each of those 200 billion stars may be encircled by its own solar system, much like our own. We don't know. We still can't see that far. We can't see that far in our own galaxy. Zooming out a bit further, we find that our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, is but one of more than 50 galaxies that we believe make up the rather large grouping of galaxies called the local group. Local being a relative term here. Especially considering that the nearest galaxy to us is Canis Major Dwarf, which, like the Milky Way, comes with its own unique set of mental images. But Canis Major Dwarf is roughly 25,000 light years away. That means that if we were to travel at the speed of light, it would take us 25,000 years to reach our closest neighboring galaxy. The next closest grouping of galaxies to us, the Virgo cluster, is believed to contain approximately 1,300 galaxies, 26 times the number of galaxies in our own grouping. And once again, if we were to travel at the speed of light, it would take us almost 60 million years to reach the Virgo cluster, the next closest cluster of galaxies to our own. So now, as we speed out over distances we've only seen in our dreams and reruns of Star Trek episodes, which I'm confident are accurate in all respects, let's pause and take a wistful look over our shoulders. At what exactly? Before us is a field of stars and galaxies, black holes and deep space more vast than our imaginations can possibly conceive. Out here in perfect darkness, the lights of which we cannot hope to imagine, we can see what we couldn't see before, though we can't even begin to see all that there is. Our eyes, the sophisticated machinery that they are still no match for the myriad of wavelengths, light emissions, and objects all around us. Yet there, in our field of vision, is one object of light, not even all that bright, nestled innocuously among all the others. That is our galaxy group, which contains our galaxy, which contains our solar system, which contains our world, our entire world. Every mountain and ocean, every earthquake and storm, our dreams and fears, joys and heartbreaks, birthdays, funerals, family dinners, and coffee breaks are contained within that tiny pinprick of light among lights. Can you find yourself there? Can you find yourself in all that vastness? None of us can. You and I are just a part of the light that bounces the reflection of the sun back into the vast darkness of space. Pardon me if I give voice to the word that should be on the tip of our tongues, that hangs in the air like the elephant in, well, the elephant in the universe. Insignificant. And now I think we begin to see just a tiny fraction of the bigness of our God. Wonder is the profound experience of recognizing the bigness of God and the very smallness of us. It is being overwhelmed with awe, and if you'll admit to it, I wager it's just a little bit frightening. But let us press in a little more, a little deeper into wonder. Just a moment ago, I used a word that is painful to hear and almost hideous in its implications if we begin to believe it about ourselves. Insignificance. In the grand scheme of things, it would certainly seem that is what we are. Inconsequential, irrelevant, insignificant. But lest you despair, let me stoke those fires of wonder. You have a God who believes the exact opposite about you, who who believes you are massively significant. He cries it from every metaphorical corner of the universe he created. He declares that you are valuable and glorious and worthwhile and wonderful. Because the God who created all this, whose ingenuity and infinite power brought all of this ever-expanding wonder into existence, believed that your existence, invisible but for a speck of light hanging in the darkness, was of such great worth that he went from all of this vastness to all of your smallness. And that is the wonder of Christmas. It's not sing-alongs and snowfalls and stockings. It's not silver bells and Santa's elves. It's an all-powerful God who became a powerless infant to tell you something about just how significant you are. It's a wide-eyed wonder at the deep, profound, and life-giving love of God.